Java 8's Lambda expressions give us another great way to implement the strategy pattern. They make it easy to write small pieces of logic that you can pass around as a variable or as a parameter. And as it turns out, small pieces of logic is exactly what we deal with very often when we use the strategy pattern. But the best way to see how lambdas can help with the strategy pattern is to see it in action. Let's look at our code and see how we can convert our previous classes to use lambdas instead. The first thing we're going to do is to change the type of the tax rate calculator. Now, I don't actually have to do this. I could use lambda expressions or functions directly, but I want to give the reader an indication of what I mean, what I want to do with these functions, and you'll see what I mean shortly. So what I'm going to do is say that the tax rate calculator is a function that converts a line item to a tax rate, and that's what it does. It takes a line item and then turns it into a tax rate. And in Java 8 language, we could write this by saying that the tax rate calculator extends a function that converts a line item to a tax rate. And we no longer need this because it's a function. It has its own method called apply. So now our tax rate calculator is a lambda, a Java 8 function. And the next thing I'm going to do is write some calculations, some ways of calculating my different tax rates. So at the moment, we have a reduced rate calculator, a zero rate calculator, and a standard rate calculator. And each of these, you'll see it's complaining because we need to change the method signature, but let's not worry about that for now. Each of these implements a piece of functionality that converts a line item and returns a tax rate. In Java 8, we can do that. That's exactly the same thing by writing a little expression. We could say something like this. A standard rate is a function that takes an item and then returns a new tax rate of 0.23 with a type standard. We could also do something similar for the zero rate items. So a zero rate item is a function that converts an item and returns a tax rate of 0. And we can do exactly the same thing with the reduced rate, but the reduced rate is a little bit more complicated because there's a little bit more logic. We say the reduced rate is an item, a function that converts an item into a tax rate, and it does that by calculating first the rate based on the item total and then returning the tax rate for that rate. And there we have our 3 tax rates, which originally we did by creating a new reduced calculator, a new zero rate calculator, and so forth. So now what we can do is convert this map to use our variables. So all we do is replace the reduced rate calculator by reduced rate. We can replace the zero rate calculator by the zero rate. And it just drops in because here we have a product with a product category to tax rate calculator map. And finally, we need standard rate, which is going to be our default. We replace our standard rate calculator. And the last thing, we no longer have a rate for, we have an apply. Apply is the way you call a function in Java 8. And so now we've replaced all of our calls to our objects that we originally made with calls to this static lambda expression. We can now go and delete those classes. We no longer need them. I can safely delete these because they're no longer used. All we need is a tax rate calculator, which again is a function and that converts a line item to a tax rate, and I've just given it a name. That's all I'm using it for. I could actually describe this directly as a function from, I could say this, function from line item to tax rate. I could do this, but if I did this, it wouldn't show the intent as well as if I say it's a tax rate calculator. Now I'm really showing what the function is doing, not just how it's structured. Let's run this and see if I haven't broken anything. And, oh, that's interesting. We actually do have a failure. And if we look at the failure, it's an error in the calculation. We're expecting a 0.09 and we got a 0.9 and an amount which is high. So our lambda function is incorrect. Let's go and fix it. Effectively at 0.9 it should be 0.09. If we go back and run our tests again, and now it all passes. So we've effectively removed 3 classes and we've converted our main sales tax service into a class which is a lot more readable and a lot more concise. So that's the beauty of lambdas in strategy patterns. You can make some really nice use of encapsulating small pieces of functionality in one place without the need to create a new function or a new class. So that's it from this time. This is John Smart signing off until next time.